Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. It is Saturday, which means that it's time for a brand new content report. First of all, I would like to thank the 2 new members for joining the Concept Bay platform. I truly appreciate your support and your engagement with this project. And it wasn't until the 2 of you became members that it dawned on me to actually put a tabloid right at the end of the sign-up process with the links to my Twitter and my Discord so that I can actually meet you. I would like to know who you are, what kind of projects you're working on, and what is it that you're trying to get out of this platform the most? What sort of content are you looking forward to? So, to the 2 nice folks who decided to sign up for the platform, I salute you, thank you very much. If you see this video, leave a comment or keep an eye out for the description or pinned comment with the links to my social media and Discord so you can let me know who you are. Now, without further ado, it's been a hot 3 weeks since the last update. Let's get right into it. This week's showcase is actually going to be a report of all the content we've created this week and the past 2 weeks. There was a lot of texturing going on. As a matter of fact, we have finished the very first texture set for all the pistol bits. Remember, this is the procedurally generated pistol. As a matter of fact, I have expanded the amount of barrels that I've designed for this pistol, but they're all basically variations of the same design you see in front of you. It's just the only thing that I varied up is the length of the barrel. I like guns with really long barrels, like one of those Texas Ranger revolvers. I love the look of the pistols with a super long barrel. I don't know, I just find it aesthetically pleasing. So that's why you will see me have quite a lot of these long-barreled weapons. I think it might actually look really cool, especially from the first-person perspective. This week, the vast majority of the content you can watch on the platform is going to be evolving around texturing for the last remaining bits, and we finally get to do some animations for the first-person pistol hands rig. Now that's a little bit deceptive because technically the pistols don't have their own hands rig. I've actually ended up switching everything over to a new set of hands, a royalty-free set of hands made in Blender and rigged in Blender. So, of course, what it means now is that I have to reanimate all the animations for the wind-up weapon, but that's okay. We kind of smoothed that particular process down, so I don't think it's going to take as long as it did last time. And this time we're working with a proper professional hand rig, and I am pretty sure that if I have to create another set of hands, I'm pretty sure I'm going to just eat the cost and take it out of my pocket and hire somebody to make the set of hands. I have wasted way too much time on those candy wrapper hands. And don't worry, if I'm gonna be hiring somebody to do the animations for the hands, you can be sure that one of the requirements is going to be to record, annotate, and narrate the process of modeling, rigging, and animating the set of hands. The last 2 episodes are going to be all about animating the set of hands for the pistol system. Now, if we do the math, we have a total of 12 barrels now, 6 back pieces, 1 grip, so we're not going to count it, and 7 texture sets. So we have a total of 504 unique pistol designs. Now, this doesn't mean that I have to animate each and every single one of them. The only thing I have to animate is the handle, because Godot engine has a very nice node called the bone attach node, which means you can place anything attached to a specific bone with ease, no programming involved, which is something that I wish I had known when I was programming the needle pressure gauge on the wind-up weapon. That would have been very useful. However, now that we're here, all I have to do is animate all the animations for the pistol and the hand rig, just involving the handle, and then I can use the bone attach node to randomly assign barrels and back pieces with a randomly selected texture set. Something else that has happened is I've hired a voice actor that I've been keeping an eye on the Fiverr platform for doing some lines of the host, the main antagonist for now of the story. He has delivered some phenomenal lines, but I'm not gonna show them here. We're gonna take a listen to those bad boys once it's time to do some audio mixing and treatment of the vocals. Which means that at this very moment, we have the voice lines for the host and for the merchant. So That's 2 fully voiced characters that we have for this project, which is 2 more than any one of my other projects had ever gotten. I'm very excited to get those voice lines into the game and animate the character movements according to the intonations of the character voice. I have so many ideas for the movements for the merchant character. He is a one sassy sack of shit. I am really excited to go and animate his his character movements. We are technically done a good portion of the procedural pistol system. We've designed all the parts, now it's all about texturing, and I'm thinking I think I mentioned this before, I'm gonna probably divide this into sections so that I could kill a certain amount of texture sets over the course of time, so it's not just gonna be like 500 episodes all texturing these texture sets. There's a lot of stuff to do there. So, before we move on to the next project on the list for this content report, I'm going to leave you with the last bit of content, which I thought was actually sounding cool enough to include in this update video. This is the action soundtrack idea for the Dream Team Theater project. Man, that's a one weird music transition. Anyways, with the Artech Rise project, we have been working on the visual assets, tiles, and some sprites for the trial course act of the game. The trial course act is essentially the demo of the project. It's going to showcase the obstacles, many of the features, the presentation, and most importantly, the style of writing and delivery of the main narrative of the story. In these following videos, we are going to be developing and experimenting with various styles and presentations for the tiles that we're going to be using alongside with Godot Engine's auto tile system. I have a vision for this game to be a semi-open world project, meaning that the player is free to navigate around the various rooms and various environments, various sections of the level, going back and forth, completing quests they couldn't complete before, fulfilling requirements they couldn't before, now that they have reached new heights, new levels, and unlocked new features and new sections of the game. So a good majority of this project is going to be taking place in these vast environments, one of them being the outside, the mountainside. So we're going to be working on a lot of dirt, on a lot of stone, a lot of moss, and a lot of vines, those sort of assets that decorate the exterior foliage of the world. We have also set up a clear-cut goal in completing this particular project. We have to create the antagonist, the player animations, as well as some sort of AI for the secondary player, because this game takes place around the narrative that usually involve a pair of characters. So usually you would have the first character being played by the player, the second is the AI following the player step by step, or two players playing this game at the same time with two controllers, with each player controlling each of the characters. I'm thinking that for playing this sort of a game, which is essentially a rage game, there's got to be some sort of a reward for completing these levels while playing with two players instead of just one. This genre of games is already difficult enough with one player. I gotta reward the players for beating this with two players. We're gonna have to work on a lot of the interior as well, the inner facility, the laboratory equipment, the walls, the cracked paint jobs, the inner foliage, the cave foliage, all of the good stuff that describes the world and describes the environment. We're gonna have to create that, and the system for delivering the story is the system that I'm working on in the Child of Ether project. So I gotta hurry up and finish that up, because it's getting kind of close to the point where I have to start implementing the story into this project. So in these videos you will see me create lots and lots of various visual assets and doing a lot of experimentation with patterns, scaling, and styling for the level tiles. In the following week, we're gonna go ahead and handle the animations for the player, because it's about time we put those in as well. That's it for this particular section. Let's move on to the next project on the list. Continuing our journey to the minimum viable product for the Accursed Kingdom project, we have developed the death mechanic now, and it is finally starting to look like an actual game, because now we are vulnerable. We have to protect ourselves and make wise decisions about our strategies. This game is supposed to be very challenging in terms of combat, very unforgiving, much like the game that inspires its combat, Dark Souls and Demon Souls. However, unlike Dark Souls and Demon Souls, I myself would like to emphasize on the quality of time you spend with your friends, being together and going through these challenges together, which is why, unlike Dark Souls and Demon Souls, whenever you die, you do have that little grace period to get revived. However, in order to do so, you have to have a certain potion be crafted and equipped, otherwise your partner is out of luck. When both players die and return to the loading area, all the enemies are going to be loaded right back in, just like in Dark Souls. I personally really like that particular mechanic, that's why I am borrowing it. And also, I am going to be borrowing the bonfire system, where in order for you to progress through the level and make sure that you don't have to trail through the entire environment again, you have to activate bonfires. Again, I'm borrowing the best stuff from the best games. In the following episodes, you will see me create the bonfire sprite from start to finish and create the nice Halo implementation into the project with some three-dimensional particles as well. We're gonna try to replicate the sensation that the Dark Souls bonfire gives off when you finally reach it. Warm glow with an orange welcoming light, wrapping the surrounding walls, floor, and ceiling, as well as the player as a welcoming blanket, casting a deep, dark shadow of any object that obstructs its path. The absolute and utter joy of relief that I've seen on the faces of streamers when they finally reach the bonfire is precisely the sort of sensation I'm going to be attempting to replicate this in this project via the challenges and hardships that the players will have to face. Now that we have the death mechanic in place and now that we are mortals in this game, my next step would be to implement the rest of the inventory system, the ability to consume items, the ability to craft items at the potion benches or the alchemy stations. I will have to handle the creation of the potions, like the buffing potions for damage and resistance, speed of movement, as well as the healing potions and all sorts of other aiding concoctions. After that, it's going to be all about the creation of various enemies, various enemy mechanics and their behavior, and the arsenal of weapons which the player will be able to wield, as well as the lush heterogeneity of the environments available for exploration to the players. I am frankly torn between these features. I want to develop it all and finally get it up and running and experience the challenge for the very first time in a co-op settings for the Retroactive Gamers channel. This is all the new content I have available for you for the Accursed Kingdom project. Check it out on the conceptbay.net platform. And now let's move on to the final project, Child of Ether. For the Child of Ether project, we are just about, I would say, finishing up with this particular biggest tool of the entire project, the quest editor. We've been working on this tool for quite a while, and it is a fairly, I would say, complex tool to work on. It's a tool that involves a lot of nodes, a lot of jumping and hierarchy between child and parent nodes, scripts and instances. There's a lot of things that are going on, and not only is it supposed to be a system that can create various elements which you use to build up the story and dialogue and quest structure, but you're also supposed to save and load that exact structure to and from a file. And that's exactly where we are finding ourselves today. This tool now can create a complete network for a single quest. We can use one of the several provided quest nodes. It can be an NPC dialogue piece. It could be a player response node, which can allow you to provide multiple answers for a single NPC dialogue, which means that we can have branching paths going from one answer to another. You can choose between the item grant, check, or remove node, which will check the user's inventory and deposit, check for, or take out a certain amount of items or a certain item of a certain quantity. And we can have the quest item, which is similar to an inventory item, except the quest items are little markers and flags that essentially are deposited to an invisible container, invisible dictionary, and that can determine whether or not the player has completed certain quests here and there. Also, this allows us to make sure that one quest can satisfy the criteria of other quests, which is something that you can play around with by making your world be more interconnected and the quests be more interconnected. We also have the journal system. Of course, the journal system in this particular case is separate entity. So what it means is that we can have a quest and we can have a quest that deposits into the player's journal a to-do list of things that need to be performed for that quest. So we could have things like silent quests, which don't pop up with any journals or notifications or on-screen pop-ups, and we can have the more official looking larger quests that have the nice fancy logos and transitions, the to-do lists and task checkboxes that pop up whenever you complete certain tasks, and thus these sort of quests would be maybe considered the more important, more story heavy, more canonical. And thus, for this week, what we have finished working on is the quest node system that is now capable of loading, saving the quests that we create, as well as loading and saving the structure of various nodes that we build the quests out of. The NPC dialogue, the player dialogue, the item granting and checking system. the quest marker granting and checking system, as well as the 2 nodes that allow us to trigger the addition of a certain quest to the player's journal, as well as the management of the tasks for each individual quest in conjunction with the player's journal. So all of these things can now be created. They are now all saved to a file, and they can now be loaded when the program loads up, which means that technically we are very, very, very close to actually be able to start working on implementing the rest of the game, the visuals, the inventory system, the crafting system, the whole shebang, everything that's supposed to be a part of the game that usually you see developers start first. In my case, I decided to address this giant hogging chunk of functionality, the main narrative delivery tool, the quest editor. We are technically done with this. There's only one last thing that I need to implement, and it's a pretty important chunk of core mechanic in the game. You see, a lot of the times when you start a quest, or when you complete the quest, or even at some point during the quest execution, the player will have to receive some sort of an item, either some sort of a deposit or reward for completing a certain task. That item should pretty much be anything in the game, which means what I need to do right now is start working on the database of items that this game is capable of containing, which means what I need to do is start developing some sort of a database, a dictionary, which will contain all of the items which are available in the game, including all of the possible properties and variants that a certain item is capable of having. Any abilities, any properties, any special characteristics that can be attached to that particular item would have to be listed in this database. So before I can get back to doing all the pretty visual stuff, the animations, the tools, the mechanics, I have to build this tool that allows me to generate item templates. Say, for example, when you talk to certain characters, most often you will probably receive some sort of a health potion or some sort of a in-game currency that's supposed to be a very common item in the game. Well, I have to define that item so that I could easily deploy it at any point during the conversation in a quest, or just any dialogue you may participate in with any of the characters in the game. So this last tool will allow me to create what are called item templates. I can create, for example, something like a generic health tonic. It's an item that you can receive for completing various minute tasks, and it's probably going to be one of the most common items among the merchants. Very small item would give you a few drops of health. And what I need to be able to do is to simply say that at this point in the conversation, in the quest, I should be able to just simply add a new quest node, which is responsible for adding an item to the player's inventory, click on an item that I created, like the aforementioned generic health tonic, and that item, when the player is playing the game, is going to be added to their inventory. Again, this sort of system is supposed to allow me to speed up the creation of the quests. The less time I can spend in the code programming minute things like granting a certain item, the more time I can spend working on the dialogue and meaningful narrative progression. Once a template item has been created, I can give it or take it away from the player at any point in time during gameplay. And that is exactly why right now I need to create this item database. This database that holds each and every item and each and every property of an item in order to be able to quickly just use a couple of checkboxes, type in a few values, click add, and that item will now become a part of the database of all the various items that I can grant to the player at any point in time. This database of template items will also allow me to specify the contents of various boxes and crates and barrels scattered all over the world, and specify certain items that merchants can sell in different locations of the game. This has honestly been a very ginormous tool which I'm hoping I will be able to use throughout several of my game projects. And I believe we are just about getting to the end of its development, or at least the development of its most major important features, and we'll be able to get back to doing all the fun stuff with the designs, 3D models, texturing, effects, and animations. I can't wait to continue doing that. This is all the content that I have for you for the past week and a bit. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope you will check out theconceptbay.net for the full production videos, the snippets of which you have seen in this presentation. I once again thank the gentleman who signed up for the platform to check out the content. We will meet again in the next content update video. And remember, no matter how burnout or unmotivated you may feel about working on your project, keep your mind on the end goal. I will see you guys in the next video.